now.
I know. And you know what? I actually don't want it to be formal, you know?
Yeah.
I actually don't want it to be formal. I want it to flow organically, you know? I want us to just have a conversation as we usually do, you know? It's just that now we're going to go deeper into the issues, you know? But yeah, it's just a conversation, you know, like we would have. It's a mukabulo bench, basically. Siyarhawulisa.
Siyarhawulisa, umrhavulo session.
Yeah, man. Yeah, brothers. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Yeah, and to the audience there, you know, watching us. As I had promised in my last video that I posted, that I'm going to be bringing other people into this space, you know, into the Ubuntu Awakening channel for us to have conversations, because so far it's just been a monologue. I've basically been talking by myself. You know, I think I've done a few videos now where I'm just talking by myself, but I think it's important that, you know, other voices are brought in. And, you know, I want some engagement from the audience as well with regards to some of these issues we'll be trying to unpack. Anyway, just a brief background on the Ubuntu Awakening platform. You know, it's an outgrowth from the student society that we had at UJ, as I've outlined, you know, in one of my previous videos. I think I've gone in depth in the first video I posted. Actually, I went in depth in terms of what the organization was about. It's an organization that dealt with issues of, you know, decolonization, you know, Pan-Africanism, with a particular focus on cultural Pan-Africanism, you know, but not exclusive. We deal with everything. We deal with geopolitics. We deal with cultural questions, you know, historical questions, and so, you know, this is where we provide views from the African center, so to speak. You know, engaging with all the different ideas that are out there. We have always been a people interested in knowledge. Myself and these two brothers who have joined today. You know, if you were to come to us university during the free periods, you would find us talking politics. You'd find us talking history. You know, guys who have just given themselves time to read things and find out about things. You know, it was the space of knowledge. It was not like someone compelled us to go and learn. You know, yeah, but it was a true, genuine interest, you know, in knowledge and knowing things and understanding how the world works. So yeah, I thought it necessary that we get into a space where we discuss different issues with a particular focus on politics, you know, to have critical engagements on politics. And the reason why this is important, I felt, I mean, I watch a lot of content and I listen to a lot of people talking politics and so on, but I feel the Ubuntu Awakening view is missing there. And I think, you know, the concept of Ubuntu Awakening also has to be understood in terms of what we're saying when we say Ubuntu, you know, awakening. It's not just a, you know, that kumbaya type of idea around Ubuntu. That's not what we think. You know, when I say Ubuntu Awakening, I picture in my mind the awakening of our self-respect, self-worth, for us to think that we have enough value to make a contribution to the world, you know, to speak as ourselves freely and confidently, to engage on ideas. So that is the awakening, to be able to say that, yeah, actually we deserve more. You know, we deserve to have good lives too, just like other places in the world where we look and, you know, they have countries that work and, you know, they have prosperity and all of those things. You know, I'm saying abantu, vatu, you know, vanu also deserve, to live those kinds of lives, And so when I say Ubuntu awakening, that's what I mean. The reawakening of our self-respect and our self-worth. And so these discussions, we have not yet decided what we're going to call them, but it's really critical political dialogue. And with the elections coming up, the elections are coming up, guys. 2024. What number of election is this now? Since the democratic dispensation? Is this 7?
I think so. Let's. But when you count it, it was Mandela, Mbeki 2 terms, so that's 3 elections. Zuma 2 terms, that's 5, ne? And then Ramaphosa 6. Yeah, I think it's the 7th, if I'm not mistaken. You can correct me, Puso.
Yeah, it's the 7th.
7th, yeah, it's the 7th.
7th, 94, 99, 2004, 2009, 2014, 2019, and 2024.
Yeah, so we are going on 7 now. And interestingly, in a lot of our discussions previously, we had pointed out that, hey, man, because you get this view that there are a lot of people who just don't want to be involved in politics. I mean, it just takes you, maybe if you're sitting with a group of friends and anything, and then you start talking politics, oh, you have started, Why must we talk politics? Or you talk to someone, try to engage them on politics, and they're like, hey, me and politics, I'm not into politics. And then what was that thing also that you once said? You may not be into politics, but politics is into you.
But politics is definitely into you.
And we're going to get into what that means, right? Because there are many views you get. I mean, there are people who tell you, what you want to talk about voting? What's going to change? What's that going to change? What does that, why should I even be participating in this thing? This thing doesn't work. And then there are those who say, man, this is a European system. Why are we even bothering? So, so before we get into it, I think we're going to try and be brief, but we have to be critical in how we engage as well. So we have to unpack these ideas. But I think first, before we go in, let's look at some stats that speak to these attitudes, that we we find around politics and why people want to engage. Let's look at the numbers. So just based on the elections of 2019, here it indicates, how many people were registered to vote and how many people actually voted and so on. And then it also shows the ages, the age demographics. So first, let's look at the number of people who registered to vote. Just those who registered, right? It says here that is about 26.8 million people, right? Were registered to vote in 2019. And then it says this was an increase on 2014 when 25.3 million people registered to vote. That's just registered, right? And then here it says the number of people eligible to vote. Based on the latest voting age population estimates from StatSA, the country's data agency, this means only 74.5% of those who could vote registered to do so. Right. And then those who actually voted, right? Because there are those who are registered to vote and then those who actually voted. So it says, I didn't say the number of people who were eligible to vote. That's 35.9 million. Those who are eligible to vote, right? So we have those who are registered, which is 26.8 million. And then those who are eligible to vote are 35.9 million. And then it says here, those who actually voted, It's around 17 million. And that is those who actually voted of the 26.8 million who were registered. So it's a voter turnout of 66%, which they say is down from 2014. And then the number of eligible voters who did not register, those who didn't even bother to go and register, and they're saying is 9.8 million. And about 6 million of them were younger than 30. So, I don't know, brothers, do you want me to introduce you by your names? Because we're going to talk some controversial stuff here.
But you've been mentioning my name, so my name was
What's
already out
on?
there.
No, this is Pusa and Andile, guys. Hi, say hi, Andile.
Hi, guys. Hi, everyone. Hi to the audience. It's nice to engage with you. And yeah, I hope we'll get a feedback from you. Because when you talk of politics, you talk about a contested terrain. So not everyone is right, but sometimes we do find a common ground. For sometimes we will find disagreements about certain way to do things. Thank you.
And Puso, say hello.
No, greetings to the audience and brothers. I'm glad to be part of this panel discussion, and we're going to be tackling, interesting stuff here. Some of them that the viewer may not necessarily agree with, but we are open and willing to be engaged and to be challenged. So if you say something here that you don't agree with, that you think is very stupid, please, you can just comment and say no, Puso or Andile. I think you should read further on the topic at hand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, thanks, brothers. Yeah, I just interrupted myself there to introduce you because I remember, my mother recently sent me a message. She was like, you see, don't talk too much about politics, because I know you. It's like, be careful, on this politics thing. So, yeah, no, I know it's a challenging one. It's a tough one, as much as we have freedom of expression and all of that, it's still a dangerous terrain, because you talk
The
politics, you
dangerous
talk people's interests.
yeah. Yeah, it's a dangerous terrain. It's like religion,
Yeah.
People just happen to take it very personally. And even when you're just, disagreeing, I don't think disagreement should amount to that. But unfortunately, they do. So
No.
yeah, I that's why me in my personal spaces I veer away recently from political discussions. but I think that now the critical elections are upon us next year. I have to have uncomfortable conversations around me, and encourage as many people as I can to vote, because the figures that you just read there, they're very concerning. Because if my maths is right, it means by 2019 we had almost 18 million people who didn't participate in the elections. Yeah, and against around 17 point something million that participated. So it means almost 50% of the electorate of people who are eligible to vote, they actually have no confidence in the system. So that's concerning. And I think each and every one of us here and out there should actually have these tough conversations to find out ways and to educate where we can, and also to listen to why people do not want to vote. Like, why are they disinvesting from the system? Which I think is the conversation that we are about to have.
Yeah, certainly. And I think just to go back to the numbers. So here it says that the number of voters who did not register, 9.8 million, right? Then it says about 6 million of them were younger than 30. Of the voters who registered, 21% were under the age of 30. So if I'm hearing this right, are they saying only 21% of the electorate that was under the age of 30 went to actually vote? Is that what it's saying?
I think that's what it says.
Mm.
I think that's
Yeah,
what it says.
These figures are
they-
not straight, but it shows a very little participation from those who are younger than
from
the
a
age of
younger,
30.
yeah, from the younger, yeah. And you know what I realized engaging with these figures? I saw, I think the last time, that apparently voters between the ages of 18 and 18 and 30, they now constitute the majority of voters in South Africa. So, you know, we've always had this narrative that all people are voting for the same guys or what. Well, that's not true anymore.
Yeah.
Numerically speaking, that's not true. Numerically speaking, people in their 20s, between 18 and 30, they have the power to determine the political future of this country.
Oh. And aren't these the same people who complain a lot?
Yeah.
These are the same people who, according to stats, 60% of them, because they're youth, they're unemployed.
Yeah. I mean, listen to that. So these are the ones who are not into politics, you know.
Yeah, these are people at growth.
And yeah, I think one of the things that we really wanted to talk about today in this first episode to really focus on, because we're going to have a series of conversations, you know. But what we really wanted to focus on today was this idea of voter apathy, you know. Yeah, I remember in one of our previous conversations, you know, which were not recorded, you know, you had mentioned that, hey man, voter apathy is concerning, especially among the youth, because that's what we are talking about now, right? That the largest non-participation is among the youth. Konje, the age youth in South Africa, it's is it 18 to 35?
Yeah, it's still
Oh no, it's
18
not.
to
It's
16.
not 18. 18 is
16.
legal age.
16.
to-
Oh,
16.
16 to 35. Ne? But now looking at eligible voters, we're talking 18.
18. Yeah.
Between 18 and 35. So
At 16, you can register to vote. Sorry to interject. At 16, you can register to vote, but you can only vote once you've turned 18.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
Once you're considered legally an adult.
Yeah. Correct.
So it becomes your right and your responsibility to vote. You can choose to exercise or choose not to. Right? If I'm understanding the legality of it.
Well, yeah.
It's not illegal to choose not to vote, right?
No, I think you're right. You have a right to vote, and I think within the confines of a right, you can choose not to vote. But when we're moving to responsibility, I think you have a responsibility to vote, and I don't think it's an irresponsible thing to do to stay away from an election. I don't think of course, there are people who have various reasons, some of them that are quite valid of why they are not voting. But I think if you're not going to vote, there are other avenues that you can, use to express your frustration, either at the system of voting in its entirety or because of the choices that you have on the ballot. And we have some people previously who go there and they draw something on the ballot or whatever. So that's also it's a protest, but you're also communicating something. So that person chose to go there and not tick next to their favorite political party, but to somehow draw in or something in the whole ballot paper. So I think that's what people can do. But to entirely stay away from the election, I don't think that's the most responsible thing to do. And I think that's the conversation that we should have here. Because I think it's just from the realm of responsibility. It's one of the avenues that you can use to persuade people that are apathetic to say, you have a responsibility for your society, to your country, to exercise the vote.
So now let me ask you a critical question. So what would it do then? I mean, you say maybe I can just go there and draw something there on the ballot as a protest. How does that, change anything?
It doesn't change anything, but